Good evening, listeners. I am Owen Carver, and this is Artificial Evidence, where we explore the shadows of history, one unsettling story at a time, because the algorithm knows. Tonight's tale is a chilling journey into the occult, a story that begins in a small New England town in the year 1937 and spirals into something far darker than anyone could have imagined. Our setting is Black Hollow, Massachusetts. Sleepy, isolated village nestled in a valley surrounded by dense pine forests. The town had always carried an air of mystery. Stories of witches and curses were whispered by candlelight, passed down through generations like warnings. But for most of the 20th century, Black Hollow was quiet, its secrets buried beneath the roots of ancient trees. That changed in the autumn of 1937, when the body of 16-year-old Clara Merriweather was found near the banks of the Black Hollow River. She was lying on a bed of dried leaves, her arms crossed over her chest. There were no signs of physical trauma, no evidence of a struggle. But what set the scene apart, what horrified even the most hardened investigators, was the circle of strange symbols etched into the dirt around her body. They were unlike anything the local police had ever seen, intricate, interwoven designs, almost like a labyrinth. The coroner ruled Clara's cause of death as unknown. Her body showed no signs of injury or poisoning. It was as if her heart had simply stopped. The townsfolk whispered of a curse, of dark forces awakening. And as the days turned colder and the shadows grew longer, the fear in Black Hollow deepened. Sheriff Walter Grayson, a pragmatic man who did not believe in ghosts or curses, was determined to solve the case. He enlisted the help of an academic from Boston, Dr. Eleanor Drake, an expert in ancient languages and symbols. Dr. Drake quickly identified the markings as a variation of alchemical glyphs, symbols historically associated with rituals meant to summon or bind supernatural entities. But their exact origin was unclear. The investigation took a startling turn when a second body was found just 3 weeks later. This time, it was Thomas Everett, a schoolteacher in his 30s. He was discovered in the woods, arranged in the same manner as Clara, with the same symbols surrounding him. Panic spread like wildfire. 2 deaths with no clear explanation, connected by ominous markings, left the town gripped by paranoia. Sheriff Grayson intensified his efforts, questioning anyone who might have had a connection to the victims. What he uncovered was a web of secrets that had been festering beneath the surface of Black Hollow for decades. Both Clara and Thomas had ties to an obscure group called the Order of the Iron Dawn. This so-called society had been active in Black Hollow since the late 1800s. Publicly, they were known as a historical club interested in folklore and tradition. Privately, however, they were rumored to practice rituals invoking ancient spirits, seeking knowledge and power. As the investigation deepened, Dr. Drake discovered that the symbols at the crime scenes were referenced in an obscure text housed in the Boston Athenaeum. The text, titled The Codex Tenebris, described a ritual meant to open a door to what it called the other side. According to the text, such a ritual required sacrifices to align the spiritual energy needed for the door to open. The theory was horrifying but compelling. Could someone in the Order of the Iron Dawn be carrying out these rituals? And if so, why now? The sheriff's focus turned to a reclusive figure named Edward Langley, a wealthy landowner who had inherited the old Merriweather estate, an imposing mansion on the outskirts of town. Langley had long been rumored to lead the Order of the Iron Dawn. He rarely ventured into town, and when he did, he was always dressed in black, his demeanor cold and distant. A search of Langley's mansion revealed a chilling discovery, a hidden room in the basement filled with occult artifacts, candles, ancient tomes, and a large wooden table engraved with the same symbols found at the crime scenes. Most damning of all was a ledger containing the names of order members and detailed notes on their meetings. Among the names were both Clara Merriweather and Thomas Everett. Langley was arrested and charged with murder, but he denied any involvement in the deaths. He claimed the order's rituals were purely symbolic, a way of preserving history and tradition. He insisted that someone was framing him, using the order's practices to hide their own sinister motives. Then came the twist. Just days before Langley's trial, another body was discovered. This time, it was Sheriff Grayson himself. He was found in the woods, surrounded by the same symbols, his face frozen in an expression of terror. The townsfolk were thrown into chaos. If Langley was in custody, how could he have committed this murder? It was Dr. Drake who uncovered the truth. Buried in the pages of the Codex Tenebris, she found a passage describing the dangers of the ritual. If performed incorrectly, the text warned, it could unleash a malevolent force, a spirit bound to the location of the failed ritual. The deaths, she theorized, were not the work of any living person, but of something far older, something summoned by the Order's meddling with forces they did not understand. Langley was released, though his reputation was ruined, and he left Black Hollow shortly after. The deaths stopped, but the fear lingered. The town's population dwindled over the following years, its once bustling streets reduced to empty storefronts and boarded-up homes. By the mid-20th century, Black Hollow was little more than a ghost town, its dark history buried beneath the weight of time. Thank you for joining me for this harrowing journey into the shadows of Black Hollow. Stories like these remind us that some mysteries are better left unsolved, and that the line between history and horror is often thinner than we think. As always, I am Owen Carver, and this is Artificial Evidence, where the algorithm knows. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and join me next time as we uncover another tale of intrigue and terror. Until then, stay curious and stay vigilant.